Integrated 3 classes, we're going to be solving radical equations in this video. You have a homework assignment that's going to be linked in the description. You can download the file if you miss class or if you need to look at it while I'm going through this. These are the 3 questions that I'm going to be doing today. In this video, we have number 3, number 6, and I'll get to number 12. This video will be a little bit longer than what I'm usually doing just because I'm working so many, and I'm going to go through in pretty good detail. So if you need to skip ahead or do anything like that, then make sure you do that. The first thing I want to talk about is the concept for this. We have the idea of a radical, which is any type of root that you see is going to be a radical. So when we're solving radical equations, you know you're doing that when you see these root symbols like all these questions have. Okay. Now this is a square root, so we need to make sure that we know that. And how I can use algebra to solve, because that's what we want to do, is we want to solve for x. That's what we want to know, what x is equal to. The inverse operation is going to be squaring. So if I have square root of x, the inverse is going to be x squared. So that would be squaring. So that is going to be a part of these questions that you see today or in this video. So let's go ahead and get started with this one here. Now this one already has square roots on both sides. And what we're going to try to do here is we're going to be using the inverse operations to help us solve these. Again, the goal is to get x equals something. That's where we want to get to with this. So you sort of have to use your tools of algebra to help you out with this. And the newest tool that we have now is this concept here of the inverse. And I even need to draw this with 2 arrows because they are actually inverses of one another. So to get rid of a square root, all I need to do is square both sides. And now it becomes a very familiar format, an equation that you would have solved in your middle school days. So this is what we see here. So 2x plus 10 equals x plus 6. Now what you're thinking about, all you should be thinking about is, how do I get x alone? Well, let me move it from one of these sides. I need to get x by itself. So let me go ahead and move it. Now, looking at some students attempt this in class, a lot of them say, oh, well, let me just do this minus 2x, which isn't wrong. However, it would be more efficient to do it this way. If I took this x over here and just subtracted it, that gets me x plus 10 equals 6. Second. All right, now all I have to do is subtract 10. Voila. -4. Now, something else that I talked about in class is that, well, we're not so sure about this. So this is a maybe. Because we have what's called an extraneous, it could be possibly an extraneous solution. So I'm going to put that possibly extraneous, and we have to check it. Okay, so we're going to check our work. We're going to check x equals -4. How we do that, we're going to take the original equation up here and we're going to rewrite it. Instead of putting x's, we're going to try this -4 in its place. So I have 2 -4 plus 10 equals 4. All right, and what you're going to be doing is you're just simplifying these. And for work shown, say on a test, I would need to see that you set this up, and then however you get to this final confirmation is fine. I'll just do it by hand. This is going to be the square root of 2 times -4 is -8 plus 10 is equal to, over here, I'm going to have the square root of -4 plus 6, which is 2. When I add these here, I get square root of 2 equals square root of 2. And this is exactly what I'm looking for. I just want to know that it's true. okay? I didn't do any of the solving that I did up here in this green section. This is just me checking to make sure it works. So x equals 4 would be the answer to this question. Move to the next question over here. I want to slide these over a little bit, give myself some room to work. Let's look at this question, number 6 on the worksheet. This one looks and starts the same as the last one. You have square roots on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and square both sides here. That gets me n over 9 equals 3n minus 234. Now, if we're doing those inverse operations, technically what you would want to do is subtract and add to start this off. Well, this is kind of a confusing format for students who don't really have the algebra skills for it. So instead of actually trying to divide or subtract anything from this, this is a special case where it is actually okay and efficient to actually do one of these steps first. That is this. This 9 can get out of the denominator, and usually it's fractions that cause all our trouble right here. This 9 can leave the denominator by multiplication, and I would multiply this entire side by 9. That's what some students forget to do. So this is where we're at with this. So it's n equals 9 times 3n minus 234. Now what I have to do is I need to distribute this in. Okay, so I get n equals, this is 27n. Pull up a calculator because I'll need one to do this larger one. So it's 9 times 234. So that is negative 2,106. Okay, that's fine. Now I can just solve this as normal. I'm going to subtract the 27n. Okay, this one goes away. And now subtracting these, I end up with negative, this is going to be 26n equals negative 2106. Final step would be, let's divide away the negative 26 to get n all alone. We'll get an n equals from this because these go away. So divide that. So divide it when we do that. So this is times 1. So that's where we have negative 2106. Divide that by negative 26. And we get 81. Now, this is a maybe, remember? We have to actually check this to make sure that it works. So I'll make it again. So we want to check that n is equal to 1. So our function up here is n, let me just copy this. That'll probably be easy. So I want to check this question. So anywhere there's an n, we're going to actually put in 81 just to see if it works. So this is square root of 81 over 9 equals 3 times 81 minus 234. So this right here is going to be 81 divided by 9. Well, I know that's 9. 3 times 81. Well, I need a little help with that. 3 times 81. 234. Okay. 243, excuse me. So that is square root 243 minus 234. Square root of 9 is 3. And over here, this is going to be the square root of, I believe this is 9 as well. Down, and we get 3 equals 3. Let me make that better. Boom, checks out. That means that we are good to go. 81 is the correct answer after all. That question's done. There's one more question we're going to look at, and this one is going to require a few extra algebra skills. Okay, that's why it is the last question that I assigned. But looking at this, looking at our inverse operations, so we have these here. All right. And I have these, this over here, this negative x minus 5. And again, the goal is to get negative 5 by itself, but I can't really do anything if I add this 5 over because of this square root. Now in class, I talked about how square roots are technically exponents because it's the same thing as being raised to the 1/2 power. So they are technically an exponent. So x to the 1/2 is the same as this. So they are exponents. So I can't really add anything within that. Well, nothing can be done. So the only thing that can be done is this exponent step, which is going to be squaring both sides. All right, let me backtrack here. So square both of these right here, and this whole thing gets squared. It's not just an x or just the negative 5. The whole thing gets squared. That leaves us with this. I have 2x minus 10. Then what do I do with this? Well, I need to use either FOIL or box method and multiply it, because it's going to be x minus 5 times itself, x minus 5 squared, negative 5x, negative 5x, and then this right here multiplied is 25. Okay, that's what we're doing, is multiplying. So if I combine all the like terms and rewrite this, it's x squared minus 10x plus 25. Okay, so what do we do in this case? Well, you can see you have a power that is square. Okay, so I can't just do basic operations to solve this. And this is something that we're going to have to get better at, is understanding that when we see a square, that means we have a quadratic. So I need to move these values over to one side. So I'm going to do that by doing this. Minus 2x and plus 10, it just gets rid of them. So I'm going to subtract that 2x from here, add the 10 here, and I get x squared minus 12x plus 35 equals 0. And I can start to solve this, and factoring is going to be the fastest way. You could use quadratic formula too if you want to, but I think factoring is what I'm going to go with on this, because I want to find the factors of 35 that break into, that add to give me negative 12. So 1 and 35, that won't work. 3, no, 4, 5, and 7. I think those are all the factors that I can use. And luckily, it looks like if I change these to negatives, negative 5, negative 7, those are actually going to work for me. So I know that this is going to be x minus 5 times x minus 7. That's equal to 0. And now we're going to find the zeros. So x is equal to 5 or x is equal to 7. All right, so that is the solving part. Now remember, and this is the step that just adds more time to this process, is we got to check these and make sure that both of them are valid. More times than not on these types of questions where you have two, one of them isn't valid. So we're gonna have to check x equals 5 and x equals 7. So we'll start with x equals 5. So this equation was x minus 5 square root 2x minus 10, x minus 5 x square root 2x minus 10. Correct. Here. Right, okay, so for both of these, we're going to check it. So over here, I'm going to put 5 minus 5 equals to square root of 2 times 5 minus 10. I like to always use parentheses, by the way. It's just a good habit to get into. Let's test this out and see if it works. 5 minus 5, that's going to be 0 right away on that side. Over here, we get square root of 10 minus 10. That is 10 minus 10 is going to be 0 underneath there. Square root of 0 is 0. So that one's good. So we know that x equals 5 is fine. Let's try the other one. We're going to do 7 minus 5 equals, so I'm using this equation here. Check with. Over here, we'll do square root of 2 times 7 minus 10. And this left side's super easy. It's just going to be a 2. Over here, 14 is 2 times 7, then minus 10. We get 2 equals, oops, get 2 is equal to square, it was 14 minus 10, that is 4. So the square root of that. And then, what is the square root of 4? Well, it is 2. So there it is again. These both are verified. That means that both of these are valid answers to the question, but we still had to check anyway. Okay. That'll be all for this video. I am trying to get to 100 subscribers. So if you've made it to the end and you would hit the subscribe button, I need 100 so that I can change my YouTube domain name. And I'd appreciate it if you'd help me out with that.